In the field, we are frequently met by the challenge of finding out what really matters to the people we work with. Too often we conduct and evaluate activities on the basis of what we feel is important, when in fact that might differ widely from what the people we work with might think is important. But how to get a balanced record of other people's opinions is difficult, especially when the population comprises illiterate, oppressed people, many of whom will never have been asked to express an opinion before. I suggest that the activities that such people normally engage in provide a key to opening a way to access the information needed. Here is an example of what I mean. I needed to gather opinions from a group which will surely rank amongst the most oppressed of groups: illiterate, low-caste women. Oppressed because of their gender, their caste, and the cultural expectations associated with those factors. A group of just such women had engaged in a project that sought to facilitate their empowerment, raise their standard of living, and improve their environment. We needed to find out the impact that project had on their lives. We met with the group in a place familiar to them. After introductions, we engaged the group in general discussion about the project, what had worked and what had not. This was important because it drew each member's attention to focus on her own experience in the project. It was a way to gradually close out the other issues of the day and to stimulate reflections and impressions regarding the topic of interest, the project. We really wanted to know what they felt were benefits to them. So when the group appeared to be truly focused on the project, the facilitator began to draw out more specific opinions on what the women regarded to be benefits and how those benefits had impacted on their lives.
एक बेर में ये क्या नहीं बोलूं, सब आदमी बोलते हैं वो में फायदे बहुत जल्दी तो फायदे भेल पढ़े में पढ़ल गई की फायदा भेल पढ़ला से पढ़ला केहन बुद्धि ज्ञान भेल से को ये सही नहीं आवे से सही नहीं अतु जाई छी तो हाथ लगाउ आयो की जाई छी तो कहै छी पढ़ताई ध दै छै कॉपी लिख द दै छी तो फटाई लिख दै छी तो ओइ के बढ़िया अच्छा नामोच भेल ई हमरा भेल निमन भेल। अच्छा एक दिन हम इनका एक बात
The process continued for as long as the women wished to report back. They generally talked about activities as benefits, so the facilitator patiently probed until the women explained the impact the activities had. When all the opinions seemed exhausted, the facilitator summarized what the women had said and suggested that in this instance there were 5 activities that were associated with positive impacts. The next challenge was to establish the level of agreement on those opinions. It could be, after all, that only 1 or 2 very vocal people had expressed opinions that did not really reflect the opinions of the others. This is where the market day parallel really comes into play. First of all, volunteers from the participants were asked to draw pictures that represent the activities that had positive impacts. In this particular case, the women had identified 5 key activities. The pictures representing those activities were drawn and then laid out on the floor, just like produce in a market. The facilitator then gave tokens to each of the participants the same number of tokens as there were pictures on the floor. Plastic bags were then placed with each of the pictures.
सिक्का के हाथ में मान के चलो कि पैसा है होते पैसे नहीं थे अगर बेसी उतने वैल्यू है उतने मूल्य है बात बोलिए ना यही ठाए 5 को जगह भी है 5 को झोरा है ये झोरा तय लागी है ये पहल का झोरा है आके जरा बकरी पालन छोट मोट व्यापार आ सके ऋण दयाल है 3000 रुपया वाला वही से संबंधित झोरा है कोई कार्यक्रम से संबंधित ये है प्रौढ़ शिक्षा के झोरा प्रौढ़ शिक्षा जहाँ सब प्रौढ़ शिक्षा ये है हेल्थ पोस्ट के स्वास्थ्य संबंधी झोरा ये अहाँ सबके समूह में जो बचत हो वही संबंधित झोरा है और ये है टॉयलेट के संबंधित झोरा ठीक है बात बोलिए ना बोलिए
The facilitator then asked the women again what each picture represented and reminded them of what they had said about the impact of each activity. The facilitator then explained that when he calls to them that the market is open, they should all get up and buy the activities that are most important to them. They can spend their money however they wish. If only one activity was of value to them, they could place all their money in the bag reserved for that activity. If all were equally valuable, they could distribute their money equally. If they wanted to give their money to 2 or 3 activities, that too was their choice. They could spend their money or not, just exactly as each woman pleased. The importance of encouraging a little chaos, like a marketplace, is that it prevents participants from either influencing others or from being influenced by others. The outcome will be less biased than if each participant is watched as she distributes her money. During the proceedings, an assistant to the facilitator recorded the vignettes of impact that had been reported by the women. So after the participants had completed the trading task, the number of tokens for each activity represented was tallied, and the activities with the impacts they represented were ranked according to the number of tokens each received. Knowing the number of women who participated and that each woman had 5 tokens meant that we could also gain an impression of the overall level of satisfaction with the project outcomes. The value of the project in general could be assessed by the percentage of tokens surrendered. We left confident that we had gathered the true opinions of the group and not just of a few individuals. We were thus better able to evaluate the project.